Greetings, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Living on Music. I'm Steve Hauk. We are all in for one heck of a treat on this next episode of Living on Music. A gentleman that I have known about as a kid born in the early 60s, as a teenager in the 70s. I have known Steve Forbert's name for, going on 40 years plus, 45 or even 50 years, the way my age is going up. And wow, the New York Times calling Steve, in one quote, an introspective homespun philosopher. And that is where Steve Forbert's power of music and lyrics and strength with his career have come in to bear over the last 50 years or 40 plus years of his career. He started in the New York City punk scene in the late 70s. If you look behind me, this is the Bitter End. Steve played this club, which was where he played it. It was called the Other End, and it was called the Bitter End, then the Other End, then the Bitter End again in New York City. The year I graduated from high school in 1978. So I wanted to put this venue behind me for that. But Steve Forbert is not only a legend of his time as a singer-songwriter with a mix of folk, roots rock, richly delivered storytelling, and again, is what people would call a pioneer of the roots rock genre. And, obviously Romeo's Tune was something that got him some fame back then, but boy, has he had a history and a slew of amazing songs and records and respect as time has gone on. Grammy nominations. He had, again, the debut album was in 1978 when he played The Other End, and he has a new record that we're going to talk about called Moving Through America, and it's filled with character portraits, quirky insights. It's kind of like they call it a mosaic of modern day American life. And we are going to talk about that as well. But what an honor. I have wanted to talk to this gentleman for so long as a music journalist and as a music fan of his, and also his genre and era. But that has come to bear. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to Living on Music, Steve Forbert. Steve Forbert, it is an honor to have you on Living on Music, man. How are you?
Well, I'm pretty good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Honestly, I have wanted to have you on either as an interview for my website for 25 years, and it's such a great thing to see you. I know that that recently you took a little time off. How you feeling?
I feel all right.
Okay.
I had to have a kidney removed about 5 years ago, probably due to recreational, of course, to be redundant. Cigar smoking got me in trouble, I think. So there are some ongoing problems with that, but I feel pretty good now.
I'm glad. It's so great to have you here. A lot of things happened in the last 2 years to musicians, and you certainly have been doing this for a long time. I'm sure you were affected by the last 2 years. How did this last 24 months affect Steve Forbert?
Well, I was lucky. I've been making records for a few years now with Steve Greenwell,
right
here in Asbury Park.
Great.
So we kept on doing what we were doing. It's been mostly the two of us in his studio. Wow. And then sometime we might be concerned and we would wear a mask when we were working all afternoon.
Right.
It's a little annoying, but we just kept going. I had dates booked, as I always do, club dates and such, and we had to cancel those. And honestly, Steve, it's the booking agents that really caught the brunt of it, unless you were really needing to play just to pay the rent.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the booking agents have had to juggle all of these, bananas and tomatoes and eggs.
Right, exactly. And Steve, 2020 had a wonderful thing you did where I love the way that you talked about Early Morning Rain. You said this record is my idea of a breather, and the fact that you did 20 albums prior of original material, and then you did these wonderful covers. How did Early Morning Rain come to be? And then things kind of slowed down in the pandemic for you, but at least you had Early Morning Rain pop out in 2020.
Well, before that was a record called The Magic Tree.
Yes.
And I got it in my mind that I wanted to write, like many other musicians, pop musicians, write a memoir.
Right.
And so I did that. It took a couple of years. And in the process, Joe Paletto at the record label called Blue Rose Music that I'm affiliated with.
Right.
He said, let me hear some of the songs you've never released. And so I showed him several of them, sent him recordings, and he picked some that he liked. And it just turned out that record sort of went hand in hand with the book.
Oh, yes.
The book is called Big City Cat.
Right.
And I reached way back to like 1987 for a recording. And then I had the 3 or 4 that were very recent at the time. And I added those to make a 11 or 12 song album.
Yeah.
So that was happening. And then I'd done all of that. And that put a lot out there.
Right.
And I sort of raided the basement and the attic for these things. And so we wanted to, Steve Greenwell and I wanted to do this cover record.
Right.
Friend of mine, Brad Hunt, had suggested it years before.
Right.
It's not a novel idea. As you know, everybody pretty much does one.
Right.
I remember when they started. I remember when Brian Ferry put out a record. It's like, wow, he's recording other people's songs.
Right. Right.
Already. I mean, it's like he's only put out 2 albums or something.
Yes.
But that's when I remember it kind of starting as a proper concept.
Sure.
So we had fun doing that. And then I just kept working on the songs I was writing.
Yes.
through the pandemic. And so we just moved straight into this new record, which is Moving Through America.
Yes. Let's talk a little bit about Moving Through America, Steve. It's backed by the same band that you had on Early Morning Rain, right? And that's kind of neat. And Gary Talent's on the record, right? I thought that was kind of a neat addition.
Yep. Gary kindly played on Living the Dream. Sure did.
Oh, that's fun. I'm a longtime Springsteen fan and interviewed Gary, so it's wonderful to see him on there. But Steve, talking a little bit about some of the things that are being said about this wonderful new record, and I love Living the Dream and what I've heard so far. It's filled with character portraits and quirky insights. What was stimulating the writing of Moving Through America for Steve Forbert?
It's the things you accumulate that you think are sound to you like they are going to be a song.
Right.
You come up with something like it's like a joke. I'm standing outside of the hospital, stomping out a cigarette, and that's just pure irony.
Right.
I heard someone say the other day, it's like things guitar players always say.
Right.
And one of them was, I've switched to vaping for my health.
Oh,
So I had this, like that kind of thing. I'm standing outside of the hospital or stomping out a cigarette.
Right.
And it's what you said a minute ago, these character portraits, did you say?
Right.
And you said something else, character portraits and
quirky insights, I think was one of the quotes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And so some of those things come under the heading of quirky insights. If you're
right.
if you're looking for something simple at this stage of the game, I don't believe you're likely going to find it.
Right. And right.
Everybody does their best. Everybody does their best to put on their best face, but there's so much baggage back behind it.
There sure is.
I have no interest in writing songs for a younger audience because I'm not observing that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But so it's very much what you just said, those two things.
Yeah, and it is. And I know that Living the Dream seems to be the first glimpse that you're giving people, especially in a video form. And it's, what did I read? It was a former drug dealer celebrating his freedom after incarceration.
Yes.
That's great. How did that come to bear for Steve Forbert?
That's one of the most recent ones. It's a rocker.
Yes.
And it's Steve, some of it is it's a little related to the George Floyd thing.
Wow.
But it's a twist on it. It's like, now I've made my way back home. Now I'm not in jail. I've been in a police car and lived to tell the tale.
Oh my.
It just kind of, I just kind of got a little bit inspired. And what if it hadn't been so tragic? And
right.
Who is this guy and what is he thinking? And
wow. Yeah.
And I read some of the New York Post installments on his past, and
wow.
And that came out, that popped out, and it seemed to fit the music.
Right. And that's not something that's new for Steve Forbert, though, especially with the way you've written over the years, and also taking causes like Occupy Wall Street, like Sandy the Hurricane. You've written stuff that has some meaning as well as some really, really character analysis. I just love it, Steve. And I love this. Everybody, let's take a little bit of a glimpse of, and I think I'm running the whole thing because I love this song so much. This is from Steve Forbert's new record, Moving Through America. It's what he was just talking about. And I love, where did you shoot this? It's at some state fair or some amusement park type of environment?
It was good luck, serendipity. Every year there's a little carnival, which you can plainly see there in Asbury Park, right there, right by the convention center.
Right.
There's a big grass open plaza there, and it comes around every year.
Wow.
So my friend Tom Parr said, let's get on this. Let's get on it today or tomorrow right now because it's so colorful. And so we did.
Oh, it lends a wonderful feel to it. And everybody who's going to watch this, it shows that Steve Forbert hasn't lost a damn thing. This is amazing. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, a little Moving Through America from Steve and Living the Dream.
Now I'm not in It's peaches and cream. And that is living the dream. Woo!
Well, Steve Forbert, you should be feeling real good about that. That just seems to be, it's got the strength of what you've been doing for the last decades. It must feel really good. How do you feel with moving through America?
Well, I feel real good about it.
Great.
I really do. And Steve, it's for us. It's for cats that are 50, shall we say, to and older. Those are my values. Those sensibilities set the bar for me.
Right.
So that's what it is. It is an album.
Sure is.
It has, I think, 11 songs, maybe 12. And there you go. It's an outdated motif, I suppose, but I don't give a rat's behind.
No, I wouldn't give a rat's behind, Steve. And also, I've got a 26-year-old son who loves singer-songwriter music. And when I told him I was interviewing you, I said, get on him. And even though you're 26 years old, you'll love his stuff. And they will. I think this could have a wonderful swath across generations, even younger than 50. But hey, we'll see. 2021, Steve. There's a small little club that had a terrible tragedy a number of years ago that burned and then was rebuilt called Hank Dietl's Tavern. And it's in Rockville, Maryland. I didn't know when we were about to talk, and I know the general manager. I'm having Gina Coco on the show, who I'm sure you met when you were there, who is just a sweet lady, an amazing bass player and musician herself.
Yeah, she was running sound that day.
That's great. It's sweet. And I told her that I had just come across this, and she's like, oh my God, that was the best night we've had at Dietl's yet since they rebooted it. I saw this clip and I wanted to run a little bit of it. It is a wonderful song you came up with. It's a video film by Alan Kress, but it's called You'd See the Things That I See. And it's got tell us a little bit behind where this came from. And I know it has to do again with John Lennon and the imagining of what he might have thought when he had gotten home after meeting Paul.
That's exactly it.
Wow.
I think it was 2010. I was on tour in England, and we arranged to go by Mendips, John's boyhood home, in Liverpool, of course. And I was able to go there on the off day, which I think was Tuesday, and lurk about and just sort of soak it all up, not part of a tour. And that was a privilege.
Right.
And then I had another song I was writing, different set of lyrics, but by that night I was just thinking, who cares? I mean, this is, what would John have thought? I've seen the home, I've felt the atmosphere, I've seen his room, and I've seen literally the wall going over to Strawberry Fields orphanage or whatever it was. And there was a tree that his Aunt Mimi had told him they were climbing the tree to get over the wall.
Right.
It's not there anymore.
Right.
But I had the image of that, and no one I think is in my tree. I mean, it must be high or low. And I just thought, what would John have been thinking that night? It means that much to me, like millions of others. And so I just threw out the first set of lyrics and started just trying to tell an imagining of what he was thinking, meeting this kid that was so talented.
Wow. Oh, that's spectacular. I mean, as a Beatles fan for the last 50 years of my life, it is amazing to see the different ways that people interpret some of the things that happen with those guys. And the influence continues. Everyone, this is not only a moving song by Steve, but also, again, it takes place at Hank Dietl's Tavern, which is, up and churning again after again being inflicted with a burn down a number of years back. I used to go there before. I haven't been there in a long time. But this goes out to Hank Dietl's Tavern. It goes out to Steve Forbert, and it goes out to John Lennon. Ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of You'd See the Things That I See.
And there's a little part for the audience too. They go, yeah, yeah, yeah. One more time, they go, yeah, yeah. That's it. The more away from home I get, yeah, the more I'm glad I'm not just sat there. I made it to the Wilton Fete. And I met the most amazing cat there. That boy sure can sing its songs. This boy sing if he will come along. Our great group would sure do something strong. And you'd see the things that I said. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's up a step or two on me, because I'm still playing chords for banjo. But hear me in harmony, we could find a way to something grand. Cause that boy sure can sing these songs. This boy singing if he would come along. Our great group would sure do something strong. You will see the things that I say.
Yeah, wonderful to see you playing like that. Wonderful that that song is just something special. And at Dietl's, again, we're doing a show in the next month with Gina at Dietl's, and again, you made an impact there as you do everywhere you play. So way to go. Hope you get back there someday for them. That was amazing. Steve,
Rockville, Maryland.
Rockville, Maryland. Absolutely. About 20 miles from where I'm sitting right now. So there we are, right nearby. So love to see that. Taking a little bit of a ride back with you. I'd be remiss if I didn't take a little ride with you back in your history a little bit, if you don't mind. And
Sure.
I'll hit a couple little places. Again, born in Mississippi, you fell in love with music young. I love this. An air guitar in a band called the Mosquitoes. How old were you when that was happening, Steve?
Probably 10. It was
Right.
an actual plastic guitar.
Oh.
Impossible to actually be. You couldn't call it an instrument ever.
Wow.
But it was good enough to fake it. So we faked it for a while, me and some of my neighbor friends.
Right.
And I know that we were singing some things from the top 40 radio, Beatles, of course.
Right.
And so we did that for a while. And then it was kind of like, this isn't really actually playing music at all, is it? No.
Right.
So I'm going to get an actual real guitar and try to bump up a notch.
Right. What age was that when the guitar got into your hands for the first time?
10 or 11.
So it's about 10 or 11 then. You said you proclaimed yourself a music junkie even at that age.
Yeah.
Give or take. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. 17, you started writing. What was the impetus, Steve? Again, if you look across the swath of your career and the revelations and respect you've gotten, the songwriting leads the way because it's been so fabulous. Yet it began at 17. It began at 17. How? Where did you say, I can write songs? I want to do this?
Well, we did have a piano in the home, and I used to just wait till everybody went to sleep, and which be 9 or 10 o'clock, and then go down to the room there with the piano and just start trying it.
Right.
And there was some reward pretty early on because we were able to, and I think it was 70, whenever Angie was a hit by the Rolling Stones. Right. I put this in the book, Big City Cat, but
right.
we went down to Laurel. A very nice guy named David Huff had a studio there, which was probably one of 3 studios in Mississippi, the entire state. If you would count Malaco in Jackson, which was rather an established, very reputable thing. It wasn't rather, it actually was.
Right.
And so David Huff brought us down there. And the current band I was in, I had a couple of songs, and we made a single. He went through the magic unknown mystery process of turning it into a 45 RPM record.
Wow.
And they played it on the radio in Meridian, and we got up to number 2, but we could not, dislodge Angie from number 1.
Oh. You couldn't push the Stones off the charts?
Couldn't do it. So,
wow.
But that was great though. That was very rewarding. And so that just lent fuel to the fire, if you will.
Yeah, it seemed to, and it seemed to know it began then is fabulous. I know you moved to New York City. I grew up 40 minutes from there in Wilton, Connecticut. So New York is a big part of my life. You began kind of almost a guitar and harmonica singer, you at punk club CBGB, which I've been to, in an amazing place. 24, you signed a recording contract and you released Alive on Arrival. And I got a clip of you playing a song from last year. But that first album, did that kind of make you say, okay, I'm beginning this is really going to start taking off a little bit for me at this stage in life? What was it like with that debut album for you, Steve?
Well, I didn't think I'm beginning this. I'm set in any way.
Okay.
It did make it to like number 80 on the old Billboard chart.
Wow.
But it was an underground record.
Right.
Some of the college stations were playing it, and people that encountered it liked it. And I was able to get out on the road, and I found myself opening shows all the way from Frankfurt, Germany, some showcase bar there, to opening a show for Earl Scruggs on his own.
Oh, wow.
Out in Sandusky, Ohio, wherever the hell that was. So that sort of happened, but I didn't think that, I had it down. I didn't know what would happen. And it wasn't until Romeo's tune that the ordinary person knew anything about it.
Right.
If I'd never made another record, the Alive on Arrival would be a capital C cult record,
Right.
And there's some of those that I really love out there. But anyway, it was still pretty reasonable.
Yeah, it was. And I love the sound of this song. Here's a quick little taste of Steve's music from that year. And it just shows that your talent's still rocking, Steve. This was done last year at the City Winery, the new renditions at the City Winery in New York City. And it is a little bit of thinking.
Impressions all clouding your brain. Trace them too far and they drive you insane. Twisted so tight now you hardly can talk. Get out in the daylight and go for a walk. And I don't go thinking and thinking and thinking. So much to you was stranded behind. Don't be thinking about it. Thinking so much to you losing your mind. All that tension inside has gone through to your face. You're flashing your madness all over the place. Stand in the hallway, try to explain. I look in your eyes and see shackles and chains. Woo, look out!
Yeah, Steve, that shows even though done last year, it shows kind of where you were coming into music in '78. That's again where you played this place behind me, the other end, in New York City in '78. You were, and you've talked about this with people, I'm sure, over and over, but I just had to ask a real quick nutshell of this. You're called the new Dylan at that time. And it's like, you said, I can't pay attention to that. I just gotta, it's a cliche, but it shows that the people were looking at the music already and going, this is something special, even though you don't really need the moniker of a new Dylan, right?
Well, Steve, I don't know that it really meant this is something special. Maybe that's more of a reflection on me. Right. I refuse to take it seriously.
Okay.
And there were people out there at the time, we're talking about the 70s, 77, 8, 9. Loudon Wainwright had a lot of things going, released a lot of records.
Right.
There was a guy in the village named Tom Pacheco, someone we were all quite fond of. He was a friend. There was a cat named Sammy Walker. He was able to get it together and put out a record on, I don't know what label it was, but these people were around. You'd had Elliot Murphy. Oh. They said that about Bruce Springsteen, but it was kind of like anybody leaning heavily into lyrics, / maybe storytelling. Then it was a cliche. It's just like, okay, new Dylan. It'd be like, okay, a brand new, wow, new Tom Brady.
Right.
Okay, sure. But that's what to say. If somebody really great out there on the football field, a new Tom Brady.
Right.
It's not real imaginative, but they do that. And I bristled at it because it was nothing that I wanted to think. I had to think in my mind, I've got to bump up and live up to that.
Right. No. Right. You're exactly right. Bruce was given that same thing. Again, I would say that, sure, you're not going to live by that kind of moniker, but I think it had to show something to the strength of your songwriting, even at that stage. Jackrabbit Slim came out and things seemed to ascend. Again, you talked all about Romeo's Tune. You've done so many amazing songs and things in your world, but boy, that was a wonderful kickoff. I love the little story. I didn't know that it was dedicated to Florence Ballard. Where it was written about a girl from your hometown, but dedicated to Florence. That is a really neat thing because of she wasn't taken care of by the music business, right?
Right. She wasn't, but the music business is not obligated really to take care of anybody.
Right.
Not then, not now, not before then, when whatever happened to Frankie Liban happened to him.
Right.
It's not. But I was perhaps a bit more naive, and I thought it was a sad thing and an injustice that one of the original three Supremes should be in any way destitute anywhere. Yeah. And it was Flo She Don't Know, because the boy she loves is a Romeo. That was the tie-in. And so I said, I'm going to dedicate this to her. She's passed away, and I don't know why.
Right.
But let's not forget in our, let's say it, Steve, new Dylan list, let's not forget John Prine.
Yes.
He'd done a lot of records, and he, more than the other people we mentioned, maybe was similar to Bob.
Right.
In his delivery, he's not a particularly melodic singer.
Right.
But he could have been the main one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's made a hell of an impression out there.
Right. Well, you're right. And so have you, to me. And when I was 18 years old, 17, I remember this song as part of my vernacular. I would be remiss without playing a little bit of this. And what I did for people, Steve, is I showed a little bit of an early of you playing this when it came out, and also you playing it in 2020, just to show your style continued. The song had a sense to it still. Everybody, here's a little bit of from back then and today. A little Romeo's Tune. All right, my friend.
Meet me in the middle of the day, let me hear you say everything's okay. Bring me southern kisses from your room. Meet me in the middle of the night, let me hear you say everything's alright. Let me smell the moon in your perfume. Oh, gods and years will rise and fall, and there's always something more. Lost in talk, I waste my time, and it's all been said before. While further down behind the masquerade, the tears are there. I don't ask for all that much, I just want someone to care. Meet me in the middle of the day, hear you say everything's okay. Come on out beneath the shining sun. Meet me in the middle of the night, let me hear you say everything's alright. Sneak on out beneath the stars and where I'll have to speak my mind and you won't have to hear shreds of news and afterthoughts and those complicated things. We don't weather down behind the light and fade like mango. Say, do you will? Meet me in the middle of the day, let me hear you say everything's okay. Bring me southern kisses from your will. Meet me in the middle of the night, let me hear you say everything's alright. Let me smell the moon in your...
Yeah, well, that's, I think, again, Steve, for anything, and you're a relatively humble man, but that song's in part of my DNA. So I thank you for that back then, and also a lot of your other music. So I really appreciated you and it. A lot of albums, wonderful stuff like Little Stevie Orbit, the Steve Forbert record, Down in Flames, came out through the 80s, the 90s. You just continued to churn. Was songwriting, did that continue to be flowing for you? Was it something that you just felt like, again, a second part of you as those years went by?
Yeah, that's what that's what I want to be doing. I'm not really accomplishing much if I'm not working on songs. That's right. What I should be doing.
Right.
That's the way I feel about it. And as long as the inspiration is there, I try to keep at it.
Yeah. Well, you did. And that was a fabulous run, and it still is. In 2002, you released a tribute album to the one and only Jimmie Rodgers called Any Old Time, nominated for a Grammy. What made you do a tribute album to Jimmy?
Well, I'm from his hometown.
There you go. Yeah.
So that's a lot of it. Right. And I'd put out several records, and I've been doing this Americana thing, if you want to call it that. And you can trace a lot of it way back to 1927 or so when he put out his first Blue Yodel. And it's just sort of like if you're from Meridian, Mississippi, and you're going around playing roots rock clubs, and you've got to do some acknowledgement of this genius. Yeah. And so I did. And Gary Talent helped me do that.
Oh,
produced it.
That's right. I remember hearing that back then when Gary was producing records, and we may have even talked about it on my interview with him. Here's a little taste, everybody. It's from the Red Clay Music Foundry around 2015, a live performance by Steve. It is a song from Any Old Time. And it, again, shows the wonderful presence of Steve Forbert as well as his tribute to Jimmie Rodgers. Here's a little bit of My Blue-Eyed Jane.
The sweetest girl in the world is my blue-eyed Jane. We fell in love like turtle doves while that old moon was shining down. I asked her then, I asked her when. Hey, baby, when did the wedding bells ring? She said, oh, dear, you seem so queer. If this could happen, yeah, you are my little pal. Babe, I never knew a sweeter gal. My little blue-eyed Jane, I love you so. the sun go down and those shadows creeping over town, then I'll come meet me in the lane, my little blue-eyed Jane. Janie dear, listen here, I've come to say farewell. The world is drear without you, dear, but now I cannot linger here. I'm going away this very day. Please come go with me. I'll be sad and blue, wanting you, longing all day for little blue-eyed Jane. You'll always be the same sweet thing. I know you'll never change. I love you so. Baby, sun go down and the shadows creeping over town, then I'll come back again, my blue-eyed Jane. Yeah, I'll.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Shows your sense of Jimmy, and also just that, I'm telling you, that wonderful Steve Forbert sound live, which continues to this day. 2006, Steve, a Mississippian inducted into the Mississippi Music Hall of Fame. You know, you're a humble man, but how did that feel?
Well, it was really nice.
I bet.
And Mississippi has so many outstanding American roots music talents, from, you've heard of Elvis Presley.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So on down all the way to a guy from my hometown also named Paul Davis, who had a few, you know, Paul, he had a few AM hits that were very nice. And he was a boyhood hero of mine.
Wow.
So to be in the Mississippi Hall of Fame is just a really good state to be, you know, included with.
Oh, I bet. Luther Dickinson, I believe, in the North Mississippi All-Stars, who I'm going to see at the Chesapeake Bay Blues Festival in a couple of months. I've interviewed him 3 or 4 times. They're a real unique band too. Well, that is wonderful. I loved seeing that as I was going through. 2007, hey, Keith Urban covered Romeo's tune. How did that surprise you?
Totally unexpected.
Oh,
these things, it seems, are 98% of the time totally unexpected. You can try, you can scheme. You think you've got the right song for somebody, but they're not open. They're not open to that at that time. They have some other things that they want to do. Right. But a friend of mine called me and said, I just heard here in Nashville that Keith Urban has covered Romeo's tunes. It's a wonderful surprise.
That is, that's a respect mode, I think, for Steve Forbert. I love that. And that same year, your music's featured in a Nicole Kidman movie. So everything's crossing. Margot at the Wedding. That had to be neat. What was featured in that film of yours, Steve?
Going Down to Laurel, and of course Romeo's tunes, I recall.
Yeah, that's sweet. That's a nice development as your career is going on. It had to be. You've done a couple of things, as we were, talking a little bit earlier about, the feeling of compassion I think you have. And I've seen that in a number of things you've done over the years. You wrote new music in around 2012 in support of the Occupy Wall Street movement, which I thought was very interesting. What prompted that? Before we talk a little bit about Sandy, the hurricane, and a wonderful song you wrote about that, just seems there was some real compassion amidst everything else that you were doing, Steve.
Well, yeah, it was just so crazy. We were getting into that thing. You were hearing the phrase "too big to fail," and you were hearing these crazy terms like credit default swap, and what I'm gonna, and I managed to put that into the last verse. I'm not sure I can quote it right now, but all these things are very shaky investments. And you're going to get these people, AGI, I think it was, insure it for you. It's very shaky, and if it fails, you've got it insured, so you'll get all this money, and then they're left holding the bag. And,
right.
There was a moment there they nearly went under, and all of this stuff was new to all of us.
Right.
And it was just so I started reading articles about all of these houses in Florida that were now vacated and grass growing up in the yard. And there was a scene in one of the really good movies. It might have been Margin Call.
Right.
They were down there looking at these properties, trying to flip them or pick them up or something, these investors. And there's a freaking alligator in the pool.
Oh,
that was in a movie. It's fiction, I guess. But all of this was so surreal. And I just wanted to write a song because it pissed me off. Wow. These people could play with these things and loan anybody money for a house they probably couldn't afford. And who was going to pay the price?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's showing, you write songs about, as we talked about, characters and quirky things and all that, but boy, you write some amazing stuff like that. Also about 2012.
Thank you.
Being a fan of New Jersey, Connecticut, born and bred, love New York. Sandy really beat the hell out of the coast. That was intense. You wrote this wonderful song we're going to listen to a little bit of, but how did the motivation come there, Steve? I know it's about to raise awareness about the aftermath, but to write a song about it had to really mean something for you.
Right. My girlfriend of 20 years or so here grew up in Long Branch, New Jersey.
Oh, yeah.
So, to be involved with Diane is to be involved with with the Jersey Shore. And I always enjoyed visiting the shore even when I lived in Greenwich Village, because it was a music place and it was a little bit out of time. It was a rock and roll place. It wasn't the Thompson Twins, for God's sakes. So I have a love of the place. And then, of course, I saw all the debris. And it was just the song just came to me. We're never going to see another hurricane named Sandy because they made the rule that there's never going to be another hurricane named Sandy. That name will not be used twice.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Very true. I had a childhood friend, Joanne, who sent me a couple of pictures the next day after that hit, and I was aghast at what happened just to her home, let alone the whole coast. Well, this is a beautiful moment, and there are so many. I said this, Steve Forbert, I could talk to you for a half a day about your career and your life, but these things also just jumped up to me. This is a beautiful thing, you guys, that Steve wrote about that terrible hurricane, but also about people coming together afterwards and trying to stay close and get that whole place back to running again. Here's a little bit something from Steve called Sandy.
The air, the Jersey Shore, looked like Armageddon. Oh my God, that's unbelievable. It's famous boardwalk, a sunken wreck.
Long Beach, Belmont, Sandy blows on by. Seaside, Sandy blows on by, and it blows on by. We ain't never gonna see another hurricane named Sandy, because there's never gonna be another hurricane named Sandy. And boardwalk, Main Street, Sandy blows on by. Sidewalk, a storefront, Sandy blows on by, and it blows on by. Bulldog, a cop car, Sandy blows on by. A ground floor, a front door, Sandy blows on by, and it blows on by. We ain't never gonna see another hurricane named Sandy, because there's never gonna be another hurricane named Sandy.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. And congratulations on your wonderful compassion to the coast of Jersey and everything.
Well, yeah, and it was so crazy. I mean, the damn thing flooded the subway system in Manhattan, and it went on out onto Long Island and up to your Connecticut, and it's just
Yeah.
So I don't remember a hurricane hitting the Jersey Shore before.
No, that was the rarity of it, the power of that to hit. Well, wonderful job on that, and you should be proud of that, man. 10 years ago, doing a beautiful job. The last 10 years, Steve, you've had a couple albums re-released, Jack Rabbit Slim and Alive on Arrival. 2017, as we barely touched on, you received a cancer diagnosis, had a kidney removed, and boom. Largely, I know you just had a little bit of a feel, but you feeling like that was the past.
Well, it's the kind of thing that could continue to present problems, but I'm just really taking it month to month. I'm planning to go to. It's kind of ambitious, but I'm planning to go to England for about 2 weeks in June when it gets nice and warm. But there you go. And but without a kidney, you can go with one, but you're always if you know your system's a little vulnerable and that sort of thing. So it's a fact of life for me now.
It is. I had an uncle who had the same thing, Steve, and he actually came out quite well for many, many, many years. So I'm wishing you nothing but the best, as I will at the end of the show. But talking in 2018 after that, Big City Cat, My Life in Folk Rock. Was that a planned thing you'd always wanted to do, or did it come to you a little bit more sporadically?
Well, I mentioned working with Joe Paletto at Blue Rose Music.
Right.
We got it. We met several years ago, maybe by now 7 years ago. Time flies. He had some interest in I'll say it was a bit of a pie in the sky thing of trying to do a freaking play. A lot of people have tried it. Steve Earle's got one out now called Cold Country. And
sure does. I heard some songs from that last summer at a live show. Yeah, amazing.
Okay. Edie Brickell tried one with Steve Martin. Paul Simon years ago tried Cape Man. It's a dangerous yellow brick road. Maybe it's not even yellow. But we were talking about that and putting some of my songs together that could tell a story.
Right.
And after a while, we started hearing the things about like the average play that if a play ever even gets near Broadway, it takes 7 years. And he had a girl that was going to be a playwright. And they had a falling out, and the thing kind of disintegrated. So, but then I had written a lot of anecdotes, Steve, for this girl to give her something to work from other than just the albums.
Yeah.
So I had these 12 or so typewritten pages, and I just thought, Tommy James has written a memoir. I really like his, and everybody's reading, of course, probably the best one, Keith Richard. And I'm going to take these 12 pages and try to just flesh this out with my friend Terry Boyd, an editor out in Harrisburg.
Right.
And try to do one. It ain't going to be 600 pages, but I'll just, going to just say what went on.
Right.
Where I came from, how it kicked off, and how it kind of, became much quieter.
Yeah. I love that. And that is stuff that people like me and millions of other rock music music fans just love to read about people's dips into their life and stuff. That's wonderful that came out about 4 years ago. We talked a little bit about the Magic Tree, which you put out in 2018 as well. And then again, almost coming full circle. Really, it's full circle to Moving Through America, which we'll end on talking about in a second. But I really love this version. You are a songwriter extraordinaire of your own stuff, but I love Early Morning Rain. We talked a little bit about earlier that you did some covers. People do that. I love the version of Box of Rain. I'm a Dead fan. I love the way you did it. Why did you pick Box of Rain for that, other than it being a Rain song?
Well, I didn't even think of it as being a Rain song fitting into a concept. Mm-hmm. But the Grateful Dead's recording of that by the time you get near the end, I'd say in the last 20% of the song, and they hit that chorus, it's just a box of rain or a ribbon for your hair.
Right.
That I just think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's kind of old school, but it's charming.
Very.
And so that gave the record a such as that made the song live, that record, and the end of it, and they're singing harmonies, and it's just it. So you just go, I want to be in on that.
Oh, that's great.
And so Steve Greenwell and I, we worked hard on it, and I got my friend Anthony Crawford to sing some backing vocals, and
Wow.
it's hard to play that thing live because it just meanders around all over the state.
Sure.
It's just hardly verse, chorus.
Sure.
You got to really pay attention just to get through it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm, again, being a longtime Dead fan and loving that song for 40 years, to hear you do it, you nailed it. And I'm like, big surprise that Steve Forbert could nail that, but it is not an easy song to do. And we're going to give people a taste of it right here. In fact, I think I have the whole song, which I don't often do in my show because it's so beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, from 2020, from Early Morning Rain by Steve Forbert on Blue Rose Music, written by Phil Lesh and Robert Hunter. Here's some Box of Rain. Steve, I haven't heard many people for the reasons you talked about in large ways, roll that song. And boy, is that beautiful. And it really puts a full circle on our ride here for the last, number of minutes. Again, everybody, being released, I believe, in about a month and a half, theoretically still, Steve, May 13th,
Yep.
moving through America. Steve Forbert's brand new record of original songs. You can go back on the show and watch Living the Dream, or go to YouTube, or go to steveforbert.com. I want to say they can find just about everything from you. Steve Forbert, I want to wish you nothing but happiness, health, and continued success at what you've done, which has been a revered and wonderful part of our lives as music fans. And I can't thank you enough for doing Living on Music, man. Gosh.
My pleasure. I've really enjoyed it. And that's everything you just said is very kind. Thank you.
Well, thank you for this. I'm gonna go back and play a bunch of your albums after we stop recording the show. I just want to keep hearing you. But congratulations on moving through America. Stay well, feel well, and we'll talk soon. Take care. Keep in close touch.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Thanks. As a, again, 45-year music fan at least. Actually, I was a fan before I was born, with my mother dancing around to music when I was in the womb. I have known Steve Forbert's name for so long, and what an absolute honor and treat to have Steve on Living on Music. So happy that he's doing well. He's getting through his last health issue that, again, as we talked about, comes from a previous issue, and he is looking to get back out on the road touring, and also promoting Moving Through America, his new record. Steve Forbert, cannot thank you enough for being a part of Living on Music. Please, let's keep in close touch. When you go to YouTube, Living on Music with Steve Houck on YouTube, to see some of the episodes, if you haven't subscribed, do so if you would. The subscriptions for YouTube channels really helps awareness. It helps the involvement of YouTube to continue to promote different channels. So go ahead and subscribe. You won't get too overpinged. I will be sure to just send you stuff about the Living on Music episodes and anything else that would be exciting or engaging for you. Also, you'll go to the Living on Music with Steve Houck page on Facebook, and we are close to 800 members. How exciting is that? You can become a member, and you'll get pinged at these amazing things that people are now posting on their own. We've got music posted. We've got amazing glimpses and snapshots and things about music. And it's because we're all living on music. So go to my Living on Music page. And also, by the way, the Living on Music show is now a podcast, and then you can get it on Spotify, iHeartRadio podcasts, Google and Apple podcasts, a lot of different podcast entities. And if you do get a chance to listen to a podcast while you're at home doing work or hanging out or driving or doing something, do a review if you like the show, just a little one. It really helps kind of, again, the stability of podcasts and things like that. And we would love to have some feedback on what you think of Living on Music on the podcasts. Once again, Steve Forbert, what an amazing time with him. We've got an amazing run of Living on Music episodes coming up. You can check again on the Living on Music with Steve Houck Facebook page, also on my website, Living on Music, and just follow. And there's going to be some amazing guests coming up, both international and national legends, as well as some incredible people, as always, from the DC community. Once again, thanks so much for joining me for Living on Music. We will see you soon. Stay well, stay safe, and take care.